It is the 21st day of December, the 21st day of Vlogmas, day 2 of sewing my silk velvet Christmas dress. I'm feeling positive with where I left things yesterday. The first thing I'll be doing today is the zipper. It is a standard zipper. It's not an invisible zipper, which I think is probably a little bit easier to deal with silk. What I need to do first is just to finish the edges of the back section, and then I will sew it together at the bottom portion of the skirt, and then from where the zipper end is up to the top I will do a long basting stitch in another color, which hopefully I'll be able to remove at another point. It makes me a little bit nervous to do that, but I think it'll be fine. I'll use a contrasting thread and I think it'll be okay. A long stitch length, yeah, it'll come out. And then I'm going to actually put that zipper in. So I'm feeling positive. I've gotten up, I've had a shower, I've made myself a cup of chai to keep me going. I've been listening to music this go round when I've been sewing. Sometimes I watch videos. I often this time of year would watch Vlogmas videos or listen to podcasts, usually more YouTube to be honest. But I feel like I need a little bit more concentration. When I'm watching other people's videos, I want to also be watching, and I don't want to be taking my eyes off the prize. I need to focus on what I'm doing. But music I can just listen to and it just kind of gives me a little energy, keeps me going. So I think I'm going to stick with music today. Yesterday I listened to some Bjork and Beck. Not quite sure today. I'll have a little think about what I want to listen to this morning. But I'm going to do some sewing first, see what I can get done with this dress. And I also have plans for some more baking, a little bit of a walk out today as well. So we'll see how we go. I'll take you along as we do. Bit of real talk here, guys. I am about to do some serging, and so my Christmas lights are off. As I'm sure with many people, I have limited outlets, and so if I want my serger to be plugged in, I have to unplug the Christmas lights. So you may have noticed the lights going on and off at different stages of my video. Probably not, but if you did, that is why. I am wearing my handy scissors catcher, carrier, whatever you want to call it. And can I just say how well this matches my top today? The stripes. It's a little spooky. I didn't plan that. Maybe it's a good sign of a good sewing day to come. Happened overnight that suddenly my serger is not working. It's just sewing nothing. It's almost like the blade doesn't want to cut. I don't know if it's the velvet. I have to assume that something else is up. It appears to be threaded correctly, but guys, it is fuzzy as anything. I had thought that I'm gonna have to give this thing a super good clean after I finish this dress, but I think the clean needs to happen now and I have to rethread it. So slight delay in the proceedings, but this is the reality of sewing, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, I get it. My machine's upset. It needs a little TLC. I feel like there's actually just a lot of gunk just like right in here, which is probably not helping, but there's so many. Yeah, we just need to do this properly. It's like some kind of like tangle. I think there's actually just a load of fibers. I don't want to mess my machine up, but that looks like, yeah, look. This fabric is a menace. I've never had this before. There's like threads all clumped up. I think I'm gonna take the throat plate off. Look at this. This is insanity. This is from my fabric. Holy cow, I've never seen anything like that. I'm kind of amazed that it was as much of it went through as it did. Jeez. Wow. My poor serger. Well, that was gnarly. So I'm understanding why this poor machine was not happy. Honestly, I can't understand how it was functioning as well as it was. This has clearly been gathering throughout the process of sewing with this silk velvet, and that is truly nasty. So we're gonna start from scratch, rethread this baby, and then we'll see where we're at. I'm guessing we might be in a somewhat better position because, yeah, that shouldn't be there. All right, so we've rethreaded, we've cleaned, we've rethreaded. I've managed to get a good test stitch. So now I can get back. I literally just have to do 2 lines of serging on the edge, and that is the last of my serging. So I'm hoping the machine will behave now. Right, the serging is finished, Christmas lights are back on, and I'm going to sew the back of this together. I have decided that there's really no point in using pins with this fabric. I found that it worked equally as well, equally not as well, whether I was using pins or not. So I'm not gonna bother, but I will just be gradually lining everything up as I go, really cautiously. Like I said, I'm gonna be doing just like a regular stitch on the bottom portion of the dress and then doing a basting contrast stitch on the top so that I can put that zipper in. I'm hoping this is kind of like a really, really important step, right? Getting the zipper in. So crossing my fingers. I've pressed the seam open and I've rolled a towel inside of it so that I can access just that portion. I've got my zipper here that needs to start about there. I'm going to lay it all the way along that seam, and then I'm actually going to just hand baste. I feel like if I were going to use a pins or washi tape, anything like that, I don't feel like that's going to keep it secure with this fabric. I don't trust it not to shift. So I'll do a super quick hand baste, nothing fancy, something that will be very easy to take out. So I'm continuously checking that it's definitely centered, and I'm making sure it goes all the way through. I can feel it on the towel, and then I pull up to make sure that I'm not stitching it to the towel. This is very much like old school how I was taught to insert a zipper. I used to hand baste for years. I only ever put a zipper in if I hand basted. I've gotten so lazy these days. And invisible zippers, I don't think there's any need to hand baste. I wasn't told to use this towel though. That was just, that's just how I find it's easier to not accidentally stitch it to the front of the dress. Something got pulled. Well, I ended up having to go into the kitchen where we've got the brightest light in the house, and I managed to unpick it. Ugh. I tell you guys, this is, ugh. This fabric. So this is where I accidentally got pulled in, this line and into my stitching. It's just, oh, it's so hard. It wants to rub and pull against itself. So I've only gotten that far in the zipper and I've already had to unpick. So I'm just, oh, I'm gonna go so slowly, guys, like so slowly. And yeah, do my best. It's definitely my most wobbly zipper insertion. It is that seam is not sitting straight, but it should open. That was definitely a stressful event. I'm going to take first my basting stitches out for the hand basting stitches that I did, and then I'm going to go ahead and take the basting stitches out for the actual like opening, and we'll see if I have a working zipper at the other end. So I'm about halfway, a third of the way through unpicking. I mean, so far so good. I have a zipper that is opening, she says. Yeah, it's opening and closing, but I gotta carry on finishing the unpicking. What I think I'm gonna do is have some lunch and then sit on the couch with my husband and finish this off, and then I'll get back to sewing after lunchtime. I feel like my brain and my body need a break. I'm just out, headed to the high street. There's something I needed to pick up, and there's been a lot of really nice decorations this year I've really appreciated. So I was hoping for an opportunity to show you guys some of the fun stuff the shops are doing this year for Christmas. It is a mucky, wet day out there. I actually don't know how much footage I'm going to be able to show you guys because the lens got wet, because that's what happens when it rains. But I'm home now and it's nice to be home. My husband and I are going to wrap some Christmas presents now, listen to some Christmas music. I've decided to jolly myself along. I have gotten myself a couple of the Christmas pudding biscuits and also a cup of the instant chai latte that I got at the Danish dice game at work. So my husband and I have wrapped all of our Christmas presents, which is a good feeling. I still have to wrap his, but I have to do that when he's not around. I can do that. What I am going to do now is move on to the baking, because this baking project needs to chill for a while, and so my plan is while it's chilling, I can get back to a little bit of sewing. So the cookies that I'm making today are a take on the Snowball cookie, also called Mexican wedding cakes, Russian tea cookies. They have many names. They are a tender, flaky little ball of cookie. Usually there's some nut in there, and then they are rolled in powdered sugar when they're still hot out of the oven, and they look like little snowballs. So these are definitely a cookie platter classic, but I am doing a twist this year to do a chai spiced snowball cookie. So there's going to be a little bit of spice in there, ginger, cardamom, allspice. I think they're going to be tasty, and everyone's into chai this year. I'm certainly into chai, so it felt like the appropriate one to make. So that recipe recommends using a tablespoon sized cookie scoop. I have a cookie scoop, but it's a little bit more than a tablespoon, and I thought, well, I'll just start with that, like a level one of those, and see how they go. And in the end, I ended up with, I think it was like 25 or 26 little balls, and the recipe calls for 50. So I was like, perfect, just split those in half, and then I can roll those into a ball. I think they are looking perfect. Nice little bite-sized cookies, which is what I love on a cookie platter, so you can just have like one or two of different ones all throughout the day. That is certainly what I like to do on Christmas. What I did realize with the chai spice is because you're adding all these like colorful, like brown, orangey spices to the mix, instead of looking like little white snowballs, I feel like they're gonna look kind of like dirty snowballs. But I'm choosing to think of it as, you know, it's worth it for the flavor as opposed to the appearance. I think they should be really tasty. I like the look and the smell of the powdered sugar powder. So now those are sitting in the fridge for an hour, at least an hour. And what I'm gonna do is go and work on that dress. Right, so dress status update. Let me take the sleeves out. So we have a dress with an unfinished neckline, with a zipper that opens and closes. I mean, can you get any better than that? So what I need to do next is finish this neckline. So I've got the facing that's going to go into the neckline, and then I want to do the sleeves. I'm actually doing an adaptation on the sleeves. So she gives you a lot of suggestions in the pattern, and one of them is to add an elastic cuff rather than a standard cuff, which is what I want to do. I like to be able to pull my sleeves up. That does require me to press and press this velvet again. We'll see how we go with that, but I think it'll work. I had wanted to make it a little bit longer so you can lengthen these sleeves to do that and have it a bit longer, but unfortunately with my fabric requirements there was just no way. I did cut some additional cuff pieces that were extra long that I thought I might use instead, but honestly I think sewing a cuff piece to this and then folding it over and sewing it down is just more trouble than it's worth. If these aren't literally to my wrist, I'm totally fine with it being a little bit shorter. We'll just have to see how we go. But one thing at a time, we'll get the neck facing pieces in. So guess what? Things have shifted. The middle V is not really sitting in the middle. Let me find the shoulders. It's kind of off. So I'm going to see if I can unpick and restitch to make it a bit more centered. You know how much I love unpicking this silk velvet. You know when I said it was impossible to unpick the stitches from this interfacing? I have learned that it's not impossible. It's just incredibly awkward. But I've done it. I've realigned where I think it wants to be in the center. I've kind of held up. It looks good. I folded it in half. It looks good. So I'm just gonna stitch this now in place. Yeah, I'm happy. I think it's a slightly lower V than it was supposed to be, but I am totally okay with that. So I need to flip this facing onto the inside, and there's an option to top stitch around that neckline, which I wasn't gonna do, but because it's such an irregular and sometimes very thin facing, I just don't think it's gonna stay on the inside otherwise. So I'm gonna press it all to the inside and then do a little top stitch around. So that actually went in smoothly. I think because everything was secured in place, it didn't shift around. So I'm happy with that line of stitching. I think it looks neat. So yeah, last bit I'm gonna do tonight is just to fold these bits over and stitch them down to give myself the little channel for elastic. I might not put the elastic in. I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to do. Main thing I want to do is hang this thing up. I've come to the conclusion, I realized earlier, there's no way I was going to finish this today because I need it to hang overnight to allow it to fall and make sure it's going to hang flat when I hem it. So I'm going to hang it overnight. Well, I say overnight until my next day off, which is the 24th, which is Christmas Eve. I may get a little opportunity here and there over the next couple of work days, but it's extremely unlikely. So I'm working Sunday and Monday. Tuesday I'm off. I will be finishing this baby up. But yeah, it'd be nice just to make a little start on the sleeve. I'm gonna try it on, but I'm not gonna show you guys because I feel like I want to save the big reveal for Christmas Eve when I finish this thing up. So like pinning this, I'm finding that pressing this is a little bit pointless. So I'm just gonna eyeball folding it over and folding it over a bit again, and I'm sure we'll be fine. It's gonna be a gathered elastic cuff. It doesn't need to be that precise. So I have tried it on. Like I said, I'm not going to show you guys until Christmas Eve because it's not finished and I want you guys to see it finished at this point, but I'm feeling pretty happy about it. Let me just tell you that. So my plan now is basically like 5 minutes past when it's been an hour. It's been an hour and 5 minutes since I put those little cookie balls in the fridge, so they can now go into the oven. I'm gonna have to do them in a couple of batches, and I was chatting with my husband. We basically gotten to the point where something's gotta give. Dinner, I was supposed to be making a pasta bake that takes a while in the oven. The oven is gonna be occupied for probably a good 45 minutes or so, and it's just not gonna happen. Dinner would end up being way too late. So we're gonna have to make a plan B for dinner, probably get some kind of takeout, which is fine. We don't do that very often, honestly, probably like once every couple of months. So I can live with that. But I do want to do my advent calendar. So we're the 21st. Down here. Mint chocolate chip. It was a goodie. Do you know it takes about 50 licks to finish 1 scoop of ice cream? Try it. Yeah, that might be true. I've never counted. Right, so like I said, I'm gonna get on now with the cookies. So they get baked in the oven and then rolled in my powdered sugar mixture 2 separate times to make sure they're really well coated. I'm excited to try those because, like I said, I know Snowball cookies and I like chai spice, and I feel like the combo seems like a match made in heaven. It ended up being a pizza night, which works out as a bonus for lunch tomorrow as well. I get some leftovers. I do have to try these guys. I will admit I did have a taste of one because it fell to pieces as I was rolling it, and I mean, I wasn't going to waste it. But I want to try one now that they've had like their full double coating. I am going to take one that's had a bit of a chip out of it, so, you know, it doesn't feel as bad. But I have to say they do actually look quite white. They look quite snowbally. The only thing I will say is they're not as round balls as I feel like they should be. They're more flat on the bottom. I did refrigerate it for an hour. If anyone has any tips, if you have like your personal favorite recipe for this kind of cookie or any suggestions of why you think they might have gone flat on the bottom, let me know. I don't think it affects the way they taste, but it's more just in my mind, I know how they're supposed to look. So let's see. So good. The brown almond and ground walnut are really great flavors. There's something about these cookies that are just so like tender and delicate and melt in your mouth. They might be my favorite of the cookies that I've made this year that I'm bringing for Christmas. I still have one more that I'm making, but I know what it is, and I think this might be the top for me. The chai spice, I will say, it's relatively subtle. It's not super strong. They are so delicious. I definitely recommend giving these guys a try. I'm going to call it for tonight. Have a bit of a wind down before I get to bed. I've got a couple of days of working, which will probably not bring too much as far as video content, but I will keep you guys posted as much as I can and check in with you tomorrow. Bye!